Hello, welcome to another edition of City Connections. I'm Jomara Ortiz and I'm sitting today for Steve Kime. I'll be conducting an interview regarding safe boating. Our guest this morning is Tracy DeLaughter, District Captain South with the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary Office in Tulsa, and he will be telling us a little bit more about how to be safe this season. With Memorial Day weekend coming on and summer coming up, I think it's very important to add to our checklist instead of just having the fun things that we want to do, also have a safety plan in place. So, good morning.
Good morning.
Tracy, thank you for being with us.
Yes.
Now, tell me how long you've been with the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary Office.
I've actually been with the Coast Guard Auxiliary now for almost 20 years.
20 years, and your main duties consist of?
Well, I have 3 main duties within what I actually do, and there's plenty more to do within the auxiliary, but my main duties are I'm kind of the administrator for our South region, and that includes part of Missouri, all of Arkansas, part of Tennessee, part of Louisiana, and all of Oklahoma. And then I'm also a national instructor for our leadership program, and I help teach what we call TCT, or Team Coordination Training, which is an operational risk management type program for both the auxiliary and the Coast Guard.
Very good. Now, what safety tips can you share with us this morning?
Well, as far as safety goes, you know, the water environment is kind of an unforgiving environment, so you need to think before you go. And one of the biggest safety tips you can ever have is to do a what we would call a pre-launch checklist. And that means make sure that you have the safety devices you need to go out and not use, hopefully, but if you needed them, they're there. And that is, you start off with your checklist, and that would be the correct fuel. Right now we have 2 blends of fuel. We have an ethanol blend, and we're seeing more and more of the regular blend come back. If at any point in time you have the opportunity to put regular fuel in your boat, do it. The difference is tremendous on the wear and tear on the motor. At the same time, it's safer. There are some boats that are designed with tanks that can't take the ethanol fuel, so it's better to use the regular fuel. The other thing is that as far as safety goes, and on the boat, make sure that you have enough lines. You know, when I say lines, most people call them ropes, but on a boat they're called lines. And what that is, that's what you tie the boat up to the dock with. That's what, hope you don't have to, but if you had to get a tow from another boat, that's what you would use for that. You want to get basically a line strong enough in the appropriate size for your size boat. And it's kind of like, you don't want to see a 65-foot yacht tied up with a 1/4 inch, sisal line. It's just not going to work so good. Right. But it'd be much better off like with a 7/8 double braided nylon line. The other thing you get into is that as far as safety goes, you want to make sure that you have alternative propulsion. You know, things happen. You know, you might have a dead battery, you might get something in the tank that clogs the carburetor, and you have to paddle in. So it's always a good idea to have a paddle or some sort of alternative propulsion to get you in. And when you're doing that, you get to that point, then it's time to be looking at ways of signaling people, saying, "Hey, come help me." And there are many different ways of doing that. The first thing and the most prominent thing that we do today is that we have these things on hand, and that's called a cell phone. And what you want to do is make sure you got grandma's number plugged in there, because grandma cares about you. And you can call grandma, she's going to move heaven and earth come get you. At the same time, say you're in an area that doesn't have that, you may actually have the ability to call somebody on your VHF radio. Right. There are handheld styles, and there's styles that actually man on the boat, which have higher power, can get out further. Now then, if you're in an emergency situation, in other words, the water's coming on board and you're getting ready to start swimming, there are other things that you should have. First thing, primary thing you should have, you should wear it on the land, on the dock, and on the boat. And that's a life jacket. Your life jackets are designed in different forms and fashions. You have the Type 3, which is the most common fashion that Charlie here is wearing. It's also the same kind you'd wear while you're on like a PWC or a jet ski. You have a new inflatable style, the inflatable style life jacket you wear, and it's an automatic version. And there's like, the nice thing about that is that it's very comfortable. You can move around and everything. It's a lot cooler. The newest version of that is what they call hydrostatic. When you fall in the water, it won't go off until you go about 4 inches underneath. When it goes 4 inches underneath, it's enough pressure to release the cartridge and it'll inflate and bring you to the surface. Life jackets are your #1 line of defense in case of something happening. But once you've found out a way of being safe, in other words, you're now floating, you want to be able to signal somebody. And to do that, we recommend that you tie one of these. And what this is, it's a safety whistle. It's a kind of whistle that's called two-tone, so it has a higher pitch, and people kind of go, hey, what's going on over there? And when they do that, like, you can wave at them, say, like, hello, help me. And then you have variations of that. This one here has a compass. It has a dry pocket here for other items. You blow on this, very, very loud, these whistles, and they're designed that way so that you can get out there over the water and get some attention. Right. I also have this. This is a foghorn device, and when you blow in this hole right here, it sends off a sound that can be heard for about 1.5 miles, and you won't hear it for about 4 days. It's that loud. We also have visual distress, and visual distress is a way of being seen when the situation is going on. And we have flares. Try to turn off the flares there. Whoops.
Oh, it's okay.
And the flares right here are required on boats that are 16 feet or longer, 14 feet or longer. And they're also expirable, which means that when you go to buy them, check to make the expiration dates far enough out. It's like not the next Monday. Right. So that you can take this. Now this is a flare. It burns very hot. You hold it over the side of the boat once you light it. And the thing is, you don't light it till you see somebody or you hear somebody that might be able to help you, because otherwise you're just kind of burning it over water. Nobody's going to see it. Flares are good. Another thing that we can do, I'll just set this down here. Another thing that we can do is we have signal mirrors in our life jackets, and they're specifically designed to focus a beam of light on somebody and say, hey, let me annoy you enough that you're going to come up here and find out what's going on. Right. That's us. If you don't have that, a lot of boats these days have radios, CD players. Take a CD, use the flip side, the non, Motley Crue side, as it were, of it, and do the same thing. You can flash that light to somebody, they can come get you and offer you assistance. They're also, the standard distress signal is an orange banner with a black square and a black ball. Hold that up. People go, hey, interesting, let me go find out what's going on over there. Safety is like primary. And the thing to think about is this. On the inflatable life jackets, for them to count, they have to be worn. They can't be sitting on the back side of the seat. They have to be worn to be counted as an actual life jacket. And what I try to explain to people is this. If you're not wearing the life jacket and you have an accident, you wind up 25 feet from the boat, how far does your life jacket wind up? Right. And that's the thought process we're trying to get across to people, that it's much safer to wear that life jacket than not wear that life jacket.
Right. I think that when you're on the boat, you don't know what kind of situation you're going to get into.
Correct.
You can have an accident, be unconscious, yes, and then you won't have time to activate your jacket or to put it on.
Yes.
So that's what we have to keep in mind.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And I saw also that there are life jackets for your pets as well, so safety for everyone in the family.
Everyone. People think that because dogs can swim, they don't need a life jacket. But if you think about it, dogs are mainly muscle. And muscle is not as, well, it doesn't float like people with extra padding or animals with extra padding. Animals get tired. And if they have a life jacket on, they're just like we are. Yeah. That helps save their lives. And it's there's been many a case showing that an animal with a life jacket on is more easily recovered because you have the handles that you have in a lot of these life jackets to lift them out. You know, when you go out, you always want to come back with everybody in the family.
Right, right. Good morning. Welcome to another edition of City Connections. We have with us this morning Tracy DeLaughter. He's captain with the District Captain South with the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary Office in Tulsa, and he is telling us more about how we can be safe this season. He's sharing with us safety tips to keep in mind when we go out and try to enjoy those water activities that we like so much. Speaking about safety tips, there is a vessel safety check.
Correct.
By a U.S. Coast Guard examiner.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. How we can contact that examiner and have him visit with us and check our vessel?
What we can do is that there's a website, a national website that you can go on and you fill out the information, and what it does, it goes by zip code. It will find the examiners within that zip code and send them your information, and they'll contact you to go out and arrange a time to, what we do is called a vessel safety check. And what we're going over the things that are required by the state of Oklahoma for our area and federally. And it's stuff as simple as your registration, as simple as your what they call your numbering, you know, for the registration number that you put on the side of the boat. Make sure that's correct. It's also checking for your fire extinguishers. Make sure you have the correct navigation lights, that you have the appropriate amount of life jackets on your boat. You know, a lot of people go out and they've got 5 people, they got 2 life jackets. Who's not going to get one? Now, you know, there's a law for that. You have to have one for everybody on the boat. Another thing that you're going to see, you know, Memorial Day is a great example, is drinking on the water. Everyone wants to go out and have fun drinking. When you do that, drink all you want as long as it's water, because you really want to hydrate. Remember, you're out in the environment and your body's going to be losing water all the time. And so we try to let people know that before you even get on the water, you should probably drink at least 2 to 3 8-ounce glasses of water just to get hydrated. And as a cautionary tale, if you are going to imbibe of the alcoholic beverage, remember this, that 1 can of any kind of beer on the water actually equals 3 because of the fact of the environment effect upon you. A can of beer, if you're driving a car, equals 3 in the water because of the fact that you now have wind, you now have the noise of your motor, and you have the wave action, all doing funky things to you.
Wow. And
so that Oklahoma is looking at initiating a law that a BWI, which is boating while intoxicated, will carry the same weight as a DWI, driving while intoxicated or under the influence. And I hardly agree with that because most of our accidents, most of our drownings come from 2 causes. Alcohol and people not wearing a life jacket. You know, life jackets are there. They're super simple to put on. They save your life. It's very important to have a life jacket. And
there's a lot of information. I know there are a lot of items, as you presented, that we need to be safe. So I understand there's a checklist on the webpage that you mentioned, and this checklist, there's actually, it breaks in 3 parts: your pre-departure, your equipment, and your vessel safety. Now, for pre-departure, can you just tell me briefly, is that going to consist of, okay, I need to make sure that I have my life jackets, safety jackets, I have my safety whistles. What other things you consider a pre-departure checklist?
Pre-departure checklist is basically what's going to happen when you leave, while you're gone, and when you come back. And what you're doing, you're making sure all these things are taken care of. Pre-departure means making sure you have a full tank. You go out on a third, you play on a third, you come back on a third of fuel.
Right.
Making sure that your battery is fully charged and that your motor is actually charging the battery. Make sure that's going on, because you don't want to get out there and say you want to raft up with some friends, 3 or 4 boats tied together, play the radio for 4 or 5 hours, and then it comes sunset and you need to come in and your boat won't start because the battery's not charged now. And then it also means before you leave, one of the best things we recommend these days is doing a float plan. A float plan is kind of like a pilot's flight plan. It says, I'm here, I'm going here, I plan on coming back here at this time. And what we're recommending people do is leave that float plan with grandma, or leave that float plan actually with the marina if you don't have grandma. Because if you're not back by a certain time, they will know to initiate a search for you. So, hey, this person's not back, and people start calling around, looking around the lake, say, oh, I see them over here, looks like something's not working. Gets them help. Another thing on your pre-departure is make sure that your lights are working. Those are crucial at night. The lights that are on your boat are red, green, and white for most of the boats that we see around here. And what that does, it tells us the direction the boat is heading, because the red and the green, and the white light is used as tell us where the stern's at, and or if you're at anchor, fishing maybe. Another pre-departure checklist is take some water with you. People get so fast overheated, and you wind up with heat sicknesses, and those are not fun. They make you feel really bad and can become very critical very quick. And take plenty of water. It would probably say like 3 to 4 bottles per person on the facility, and keep it iced down so that you have some cold water to take drink while you're out there. Then while you're out there, obviously make sure that what you're playing with is in good working order. Say you're playing with one of those big inflatable tubes, make sure that there's no rips or tears in the material that you're pulling with. Make sure your lines are in good condition that you're pulling people with. If you're fishing, make sure your fishing rods are in good condition, because you don't want to catch the big one and let it get away. Right. But at the same time, when you come back, make sure that everybody's coming back. That you've taken a head count, that everybody's in good condition. And one thing to talk about that's kind of crucial is this right here. This danger sticker that we have that we can put on your facility or your boat talks about something we see a lot on the water. And what this is that carbon monoxide can be a problem on a boat, especially a boat that's going at a slow speed. And that reason is because the air is going over the boat and it acts like a convertible. It actually has this swirling motion, so it's drawing in the carbon monoxide into the boat. And so periodically it's a good idea to, if you have an open bow, open the window, speed up, and knock all that off the back end of it. But if you have what they call a sun bench on the back of a boat, you shouldn't be up there while it's underway. You shouldn't be up there at any time while the boat is actually, the motor's running, because of the carbon monoxide issue that you have there. Plus, there's also the potential of a propeller strike. And so it's important to think safety while you're having fun.
Yes. And again, for those viewers that had joined us, this is another edition of City Connections, and we are talking about boat safety. And we have with us Tracy DeLaughter. He's the District Captain South with the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary Office in Tulsa. And Tracy, what are the most common mistakes you've seen boaters do? We're talking about safety. We're telling people have your plan in place, have a checklist in place. Make sure you have a plan. Make sure that people are aware of what you're doing, where you're going to be. Some of these things could be considered common sense, but still, you've seen it out there. People just doing the same mistakes over and over. What can you tell us about that?
Well, starting from the ramp, when you first put the boat in the water, a lot of people don't use 2 people to do that, and they don't set the safety brake, or even put a chock underneath the rear tire. And what happens is that everything winds up in the water, not just the boat. Safety starts at the ramp, after you get to the lake, and you launch your boat properly, and then you come around. But where people start having issues is that they get out there too long, and they didn't drink enough water to stay hydrated, so they're not thinking quite as clear. And then we see things like on PWCs as an example, putting your small child 5 and under in front of you instead of behind you,
right,
and let them hold on versus putting them within a crush zone in case something should happen. Another problem we see is running out of fuel, running out battery power, and it's right now you're at 10 minutes to sunset. And it's not nice being on a lake at night because you don't see much and they don't see you. You become a big issue. One of the biggest things that we see on the water underway, which means that your boat's actually moving, or is actually technically not anchored to anything, is people put their feet over the side of the boat. And obviously that's wrong on so many levels. It's just kind of mind-boggling. There's a law in this book right here, which is the Oklahoma Handbook on Safe Boating, and it tells you when you can do that, when you can't. One of the things that we're trying to get kids to not do is run around on a boat without having a life jacket on, or even on the dock. We see so many people that are not paying attention. They've come off the water, and the next thing that happens is they're falling in off the dock.
Right.
Well, they took their life jacket off. It's in the boat now. Then same environment's there. So one of the mistakes that people make is not wearing that life jacket all the way onto dry land. Not paying attention, or what we call unsafe speed sometimes, is that people come way too close to swim zones. They come too close to dock zones, and that gets you into no wake zones.
right,
No wake zones, people don't understand that you're actually responsible for the wake your boat creates. And if damage occurs to somebody or some other boat, you're responsible for that. So when you see the no wake buoys out there, they're there for a reason. They're actually there to help protect you and your pocketbook from inherent damage. The biggest thing that I've seen recently is not so much as a danger thing, but it's more of a pollution thing. We see a lot of people dropping tin cans, aluminum cans and bottles and stuff over the boat, thinking that they'll sink. Well, yeah, they might sink, but at the same time they might carry on and become a danger to somebody else. Right. And so it's very important to take care of water pollution. If you find something on the water that's like a floating can or something, take the time to do a man overboard drill. Call a man overboard and go pick it up. I usually carry a trash bag in my boat, so I can take that out of the water and dispose of it properly when I get back to the shore.
Well, thank you very much, Tracy, for being with us on this edition of City Connections. Again, if you need additional information, you can visit the main webpage for the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary Office and also for the National Council of Boat Safety. All of this information that we share with you this morning is available on those websites, as well as checklists. You can contact personnel and they can help you have a safety plan in place. So remember to be safe this boating season, and we thank you for watching City Connections.